6. Man as he is not as he is.
Yes.
Okay? So we have to read it. So Archana, you are in a position to read.
Yes, yes, Rangada, yes, I can read.
Go ahead, read.
Man as he is not sufficient to himself, nor separate, nor is he the eternal and the all. Therefore, by himself, he cannot be the explanation of the cosmos, of which his mind, life, and body are so evidently an infinitesimal detail. The visible cosmos, too, he finds, is not sufficient to itself, nor does it explain itself even by its unseen material forces. For there is too much that he finds both in the world and in himself, which is beyond them, and of which they seem only to be a phase, an epidermis, or even a mask. Neither his intellect, nor his intuitions, nor his feeling can do without a one or a oneness to whom or to which these world forces and himself may stand in some relation which supports them and gives them their significance. He feels that there must be an infinite which holds these finites as in, behind, and about all this visible cosmos, bases the harmony and interrelation and essential oneness of multitudinous things. His thought needs an absolute on which these innumerable and finite relativities depend for their existence, an ultimate truth of things, a creating power, a force, or a being who originates and upholds all these innumerable beings in the universe. Let him call it what he will. He must arrive at a supreme, a divine, a cause, an infinite and eternal, a permanent, a perfection to which all tends and aspires, or on all to which everything perpetually and invisibly amounts, and without which they could not be.
So we'll read very clear what he's saying, but then we will read each line. Man as he is, and what he is as he is imperfect, is not sufficient to himself, nor separate, nor is he the eternal and the all. So what is Srindu saying? He is saying that he depends upon others for his existence in every way. Be very clear, man has originated from the universe. The universe has given him his body, his vital, and his mind. And it is also sustaining him with food and air and oxygen. So he is not sufficient to himself. He cannot exist by himself without the universe. The universe is absolutely essential to his existence. Nor is he separate. That's another thing. We think ourselves to be separate from everybody else, but actually we are not. We depend on everybody. Even in the physical world, I depend on my doctor, I depend on my tailor, I depend on my vegetable supplier, I depend on my lawyer. Okay? You depend on everybody. Everybody is connected. You are not separate at all. Nor is he the eternal and the all. So he is neither sufficient to himself, nor is he God himself, eternal and the all. Therefore, by himself, he cannot be the explanation of the cosmos, of which his mind, life, and body are so evidently an infinitesimal detail. Infinitesimal, absolutely tiny, the tiniest possible, infinitesimal detail. The visible cosmos, too, he finds, is not sufficient to itself. Why? Because when you go to the spiritual level of consciousness, you see that the physical world disappears. There is something which is absolutely real, and the world depends on that. The world depends on the self. The self is the static one, but the static pours itself out into movement and creates a universe. So when he goes to the higher level of consciousness, spiritual plane, he realizes that the world is dependent on the self. And what about the self itself? Later on, he will realize that that also he has to go beyond. And what is that? You can call it whatever you want. He says at the end of the para, he says you can call it whatever you want. So the man depends upon the universe, The universe depends upon the self, and the self depends upon whatever you want to call it. Call it God, call it perfection, whatever you want. This is what is establishing. The visible cosmos too, he finds, is not sufficient to itself. Not the word he finds. When he goes to the higher level of consciousness, he finds that. Okay? Nor does it explain itself even by its unseen material forces. Unseen material forces. Which are the unseen material forces? X-rays, okay, radio waves, mobile waves, TV waves. They are all material but unseen. Okay? They also don't explain how the physical world has come into being. For there is too much that he finds both in the world and in himself, which is beyond them, and of which they seem only to be a face, an epidermis, or even a mask. A face, epidermis is skin, okay? It's just a surface skin, or even a mask. He is hiding something, okay? The mask hides something. So, what man is, he is hiding something. He is reality. The reality of him is his psychic being or the self. Neither his intellect, nor his intuitions, nor his feeling can do without a one or a oneness to whom or to which these world forces and himself may stand in some relation which supports them and gives them their significance. Against those words, we'll have a look at what he's saying. He's saying, neither is intellect. The intellect of man can explain nothing, nor is intuition. Sometimes you may get an intuition, but that also ultimately you can't explain it. Nor his feeling can do without a one or a oneness. Okay? So without a one or a oneness. What is that? Without a one, the personal aspect of the divine. And a oneness, the impersonal aspect of the divine. To whom or to which these world forces and himself may stand in some relation which supports them and gives them their significance. So if you are going through the Bhakti Yoga path, you realize that you are dependent on the one. And if you are going through the Jnana Yoga path, then you realize that you depend on the self for the impersonal self. That's what it was. He feels man in ignorance, but also if he rises to the spiritual level of consciousness, he feels that there must be an infinite which holds these finites, is in, behind, and about all this visible cosmos. In the cosmos, if you are a pantheist, you see that there is a divine presence in the universe. And if it is behind, then you see, if you are at a very high level of consciousness, you see that behind the universe, there is also a divine presence. And about, that's all over, okay? That's again the all over around you. All this visible universe, cosmos, bases the harmony and interrelation and the essential oneness of multitudinous things. It's obvious that these things you don't realize at our level. You realize to a certain extent at level 2, and at level 3, you understand much more. Okay? All these things that should be saying, we certainly don't understand at level 1 in our normal ignorance. His thought needs an absolute on which these innumerable and finite relativities depend for their existence. An ultimate truth of things. Even in science and even in even mathematics, you see that there is something called the infinite. But even that does not explain anything because there are levels of infinity. So all these things at the mental level are impossible to understand. This thought needs an absolute on which these innumerable and finite relativities depend for their existence. An ultimate truth of things, a creating power or force or being who originates and upholds all these innumerable beings in the universe. Let him call it what he will. For all thought also, there is absolute necessity for something that is the origin of everything. You see also in the physical world that everything has an origin. So from where does this universe come? It must have an origin somewhere. So that's what he's saying. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it, you must arrive at a supreme or a divine, a cause, an infinite, eternal, permanent perfection to which all tends and aspires, or an all to which everything perpetually and invisibly amounts, and without which they could not be. You have to necessarily posit to yourself. If you want to, you are a good thinker, and you posit to yourself some origin of everything. Those who are very introverted, they look at themselves and say, from where have I come? I exist, okay, but from where have I come? From where has the universe come? Okay? So, they are the, there's a not very big para, but what I'll do, I'll read out the summary of what is very just read. Then that gives you in a nutshell. This is the text, my text. You will not find it. Okay? Man finds that he is not self-existent, not a standalone, independent of all else. He is not independent of all else. He depends on everything. Neither is the cosmos self-explanatory. Both seem to depend on something else. They are incomplete parts of something much more complete and infinite and eternal. He may call it whatever he likes, but it is a real origin, the final cause, the reason for all else. Man as well as the cosmos, it is the supreme, the permanent, the perfect, the infinite, the eternal. So this is, he has to necessarily think it that way. Now we can go to the next one. Yasmin, do you have the text? Yasmin doesn't seem to be there. Sunki, you have the text? You have Sunki the text. Okay.
Yes, right.
Yes. Sunki?
Yes.
Yeah. You
Yes.
can read the next one.
My,
Yet even.
Yet even this absolute he cannot really affirm by itself, and to the exclusion of the two other categories, for then he has only made a violent leap away from the problem he is here to solve, and he himself and the cosmos remain an inexplicable mystification or a purposeless mystery. A certain part of his intellect and his longing for rest may be placated by such a solution such as just as his physical intelligence is easily satisfied by a denial of the beyond and a deification of material nature. But his heart, his will, the strongest and intensest part of his being, remain without a meaning, void of purpose or justification, or become merely a random foolishness agitating itself like a vain and restless shadow against the eternal repose of the pure existence, or amidst the eternal inconscience of the universe. As for the cosmos, it remains there in the singular character of a carefully constructed lie of the infinite, a monstrously aggressive, but really non-existent anomaly, a painful and miserable paradox with a false show of wonder and beauty and delight. Or it is a huge play of blind organized energy without significance and its own being, and his own being a temporary minute anomaly incomprehensibly occurring in that senseless vastness. That way, no satisfying fulfillment lies for the consciousness, the energy that has manifested itself in the world and in man. The mind needs to find something that links all together, something by which nature is fulfilled in man and man in nature, and both find themselves in God, because the divine is ultimately self-revealed in both man and nature.
Yeah. Okay, so now we'll do the opposite. We'll first see the summary and then we'll go to the sentences. So we have said in the previous paragraph that he sees that there is, he feels, he has to posit something which is the ultimate origin of everything. So now I am reading the summary. But is this permanent enough by itself to satisfy man's search for meaning and knowledge? He is asking the question. Is it enough to find this permanent? Okay? Can that explain everything? Can that infinite stand by itself without reference to man and nature? All three seem to need an integrated explanation. God is there, okay, even if I take him as the origin, but can you try to think that he is only God is there and nothing else? The universe is there and the man is there. So you need an integrated explanation. Fine, you go to God and he is the origin, but why is he creating the universe and why is he creating the man? That also you have to explain. A part of man may find fulfillment only in God transcendence of the universe. There are many who do that, the Buddhists and as well as the Mayavadan. Another part, the physical, may be easily convinced of the sole reality of the universe, the materialist. But in each case, some other parts in man remain without satisfaction. Man has a soul, a mind, a will, a vital and a body with senses. All must find fulfillment integrally. Man must account for all three together. If an integral satisfaction has to be attained. See, if man's soul finds God, he is satisfied. And if the materialist finds the physical world, he is satisfied. But what about your mind? There is a mind in you and there is a vital. The vital also has to be satisfied and fulfilled. Okay? You can't enjoy eternally in the physical world, but you want enjoyment, your vital wants enjoyment. You don't get it. So they remain unsatisfied. So that's why Swami is saying you have to find a solution that God, universe, as well as the individual, all together you have to explain. Slowly you can see very clearly he is going towards his own philosophy. The materialist doesn't need anything else except mind, the material world. The Mayavada and the Buddhists don't need anything else except the divine. But why did the universe get created? Why did the individual get created? So Swami has to explain this. And his contention is that there is an evolution. And that evolution slowly, that's why he has created the universe. And the whole thing is a play, a drama being enacted by himself. Then you can explain that there is a divine who creates a world and who creates an individual. You may wonder why he is creating, because of the play. So all this slowly he will reveal, he is going step by step. Okay. So now we go to each sentence quickly. Okay. So Swami is saying that okay, we have found it necessary to say that there is an origin to everything. Call him God, call him perfection, call him absolute, whatever you want. Now Swami is questioning whether even that is enough or not. Yet, even this absolute, he cannot really affirm by itself and to the exclusion of the two other categories. What are the two other categories? The universe and the individual. Remember that there are three statuses of the divine. The transcendent, the cosmic, and the individual. They are all linked together and you have to find a solution that explains all three together. Only God if you have, then that does explain the universe. So, yet, even this absolute we cannot really affirm by itself and to the exclusion of the other two categories, man and universe. For then, he has only made a violent leap away from the problem he is here to solve. And he himself and the cosmos remain an inexplicable mystification or a purposeless mystery. Okay? So either you can't explain, and if you say that God is the only thing that exists, okay, I admit that God is the only thing that exists. But why has He created a universe which is full of misery and suffering? That's a purposeless mystery. It remains a mystery. So you have to solve the mystery. Only this idea of evolution can solve the mystery. A certain part of his intellect and his longing for rest may be placated by such a solution, just as his physical intelligence is easily satisfied by a denial of the beyond and a deification of the material nature. Now, we have to look at the words, what he's saying. A certain part of his intellect and his longing for rest may be placated, satisfied, okay, comforted, placated by such a solution. Just as his physical intelligence. Now, same they using different words, and you must clearly understand physical intelligence. He is talking about the physical mind. And what's the physical mind? The sense mind, the manas, that which interprets the senses. Okay? That's the physical intelligence. Is easily satisfied by a denial of the beyond. He is talking about the materialist. Okay? And a deification of material nature. Deification, material nature is the only thing that exists. Deification is the attribute godness to whatever you want to. Okay? So, but his heart, his will, the strongest and intense parts of his being remain without a meaning. They not only heart and will, but also his soul. His intensest parts of his being are the soul and the self. They remain unexplained, void of purpose or justification, or become merely a random foolishness, agitating itself like a vain and restless shadow against the eternal repose of the pure existence or amidst the eternal inconscience of the universe. If we have to explain, okay, what he's saying, he is slowly going towards the justification of the making of the cosmos of the individual. As for the cosmos, it remains there in the singular character of a carefully constructed lie of the infinite. Okay? If you see only the cosmos, okay, when you go to the spiritual plane of consciousness, you see it as a constructed lie of the infinite. What is that? The mirage, the illusion. The world is an illusion. A monstrously aggressive and yet really non-existent anomaly. Okay? So that's what we realize when you go to the spiritual level of consciousness. A painful and miserable paradox with false shows of wonder and beauty and delight. Okay? Individual, when he goes to the spiritual level of consciousness, he is very satisfied because he has got the aim of his life, he has done. He has escaped the pain and suffering in the physical world. But why at all is there pain and suffering in the physical world? That you have to explain. So, it remains there in the singular character of a carefully constructed lie of the infinite, a monstrously aggressive and yet really non-existent anomaly. Okay? So, it is existing and yet it is non-existent. A painful and miserable paradox with false shows of wonder and beauty and delight. Now, that last phrase, false shows of wonder and beauty and delight. All the beauty that you see in the physical world, the sunrise, the sunset, the wonderful forests, all the magnificent birds being created. Okay? There is so much. The northern lights, okay? The aurora borealis, these are absolutely superb. The rainbow, such beauty is there in the physical world. And ultimately it is unreal. You wonder. Okay? So it is giving so much. So it has to be explained why it is like that. Why is he wasting all his energy creating beauty without meaning and without any reality? That's the question that arises. Or else, It's a huge play of blind organized energy. Who is he talking about? He is talking about material science and a materialist. Or else it's a huge play of blind organized energy. Also the Sankhya philosophy. The consciousness is there, but the universe is blind, organized energy, but unconscious, mechanical, without significance. What is the purpose of it? No significance. It's just a creation. And his own being, a temporary, minute anomaly, incomprehensibly occurring in the senseless vastness. How do you explain man? Okay, so you can't explain him. He is just a temporary, minute anomaly. So he is also a mystery. Anomaly, why? He exists, and suddenly after death he doesn't exist anymore. So it's an anomaly, existing and non-existing together. Okay. Incomprehensibly occurring in that senseless world. Why was that all man created? What is its purpose? You don't know. That way, no satisfying fulfillment lies for the consciousness. The energy that is manifested itself in the world and in man. You have to explain. The mind needs to find something that links all together. Then only you will be satisfied. Your theory must be such that it explains all the three: God, man, and nature. Something by which nature is fulfilled in man and man in nature, and both find themselves in God because the divine is ultimately self-revealed in both man and nature. So your theory of existence must explain all the three. Otherwise it remains unsatisfactory, dissatisfied. Okay. We go to the third para that we have to read today. What's the time? 28. We want 12 minutes. You can read next one. So, if Seema has gone to text today, she can read. She has not read for some time. If she doesn't have, then Kiran can read.
Yes, Dada.
Yeah, you have
Yes,
the
Dada.
text?
I have the
Okay.
text. Can I read?
Yes, read.
Okay.
And accept this.
Okay. An acceptance, a perception of the unity of these. Sorry, that. Okay. An acceptance, a perception of the unity of these three categories is essential to the knowledge. It is towards their unity as well as their integrality that the growing self-consciousness of the individual opens out, and at which it must arrive if it is to be satisfied of itself and complete. For without the realization of unity, the knowledge of none of the three can be entire. Their unity is for each the condition of its own integrality. It is again by knowing each in its completeness that all three meet in our consciousness and become one. It is in a total knowledge that all knowing becomes one and indivisible. Otherwise, it is only by division and rejection of two of them from the third that we could get at any kind of oneness. Man, therefore, has to enlarge his knowledge of himself, his knowledge of the world, and his knowledge of God until in their totality he becomes aware of their mutual indwelling and oneness. For so long as he knows them only in part, there will be an incompleteness resulting in division, and so long as he has not realized them in a reconciling unity, he will not have found their total truth or the fundamental significances of existence.
He is just expanding on the thing that he already told us, that you have to explain all the three together. Not a single theory taking only one, either only God or only the universe or only the individual can explain anything at all. They have to be explained all three together. Then it will be satisfying. Okay. If you say God only exists and the other things don't exist, there's a problem. then why at all is he created? Okay, that's it. Advaitic philosophy, Advaita. That there is only God which is reality, the rest is all only creation. But why has he created? What is the purpose? So you don't know. An acceptance, a perception of the unity of these three categories. What are the three categories? The title of the chapter: God, man, and nature. Or if you use other words, God is transcendental, nature is the universe, and the individual is man. It is towards their unity as well as their integrality that the growing self-consciousness of the individual opens out, and at which it must arrive if it is to be satisfied of itself and complete. The man has to explain all the three. And slowly through evolution, he has been rising. First of all, he realizes God. Okay. And before that, you think that the physical world is only reality. And you think that the universe is enough to explain the origin of man. But ultimately, you will not satisfy, you have to explain all the three together. For without the realization of unity, the knowledge of one of the three can be entire. For without the realization of unity, the knowledge of none, sorry, not one, the knowledge of none of the three can be entire. Their unity is for each the condition of its own integrity. All the three are dependent on each other, not the divine, but the divine is creating. He is not dependent on the universe, but he is created. Why has he created? It is again by knowing each in its completeness that all three meet in our consciousness and become one. So we have to know all the three together simultaneously, as he says. It is in a total knowledge that all knowing becomes one and indivisible. Otherwise, it's only by division and rejection of two of them from the third that we could get any kind of oneness. Man, therefore, has to enlarge his knowledge of himself first. He has to know who he is, what is the reality of his own being, his knowledge of the world, that also has to increase, and his knowledge of God, until in their totality he becomes aware of their mutual indwelling and oneness. For so long as he knows them only in part, there will be an incompleteness resulting in division, and so long as he has not realized them in a reconciling unity, he will not have found the total truth or the fundamental significance of existence. And that's exactly what has happened. Science has not found solution to the existence of the world. Man himself is confused, he doesn't know. And only those who have found God also cannot explain why he has created the universe. So you have to explain all together. That's what he said. We have 6 minutes. Okay? He is slowly taking us to his own theory that all the three have to be explained. And the explanation is, so sometimes you get lost in all the arguments. So what is the explanation? There is a God and he has created the world. Why has he created the world? It's a play. Ananda. Out of Ananda, he is created. Creation and Ananda always go together. Okay? He has created this thing, but in the creation, it has lost some of its reality. And then he creates also man, who is the first creation, the universe, the second creation is man. And man now is God himself, who has to find himself back again from where he came. So this is the Leela. This is the game going on, and it will go on. And if you, then problems come up, so many problems come up. He is playing a game with himself. Game is all right, but a painful game. So how do you explain the suffering? So all that you have to deal with. That's why Labjoan is 1,000 pages. Okay, explain this. So finally, if you can explain all the three together as linked, then you can have a satisfactory theory of existence. So, 36. You see? The next one is quite long. Next one is almost a page. So, no, actually more than a page. So we can't do that today. We can stop here. If you have any questions, you can take it up. Otherwise, tomorrow we'll take up this one. This is not to say that the Supreme is not self-existent. It is true that the universe is not self-existent. It is also true that the individual is not self-existent. But the Supreme is self-existent. But you need to explain why he has created the universe and why he is creating the universe. Otherwise, everything is a mystery. Okay? Au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Jana. Au revoir.
Okay.
Thank you, Rangada.